Hello, good afternoon. Said I would have it out this morning, but better late than never. I've taken a break because of a lot of overtime at work. Got sick, getting over a cold. That's when my lips look weird. I'm having to use a lot of chapstick. Got a sore, so yeah, I look like crap. Anyway. Alright, so we're going to continue with my story of how I became a Branch Davidian, or at least how I became a follower of David Koresh. Let's put it that way. Already a Branch Davidian. When I left off, my father had decided very suddenly that he didn't want to live in Texas anymore. And I don't know if you saw that video, but if you didn't, very quickly lived in Texas for a while. Used to go to Branch Davidian meetings in Waco, but when I was 18, or almost 18, my father jumped in his car, ran off back to California, and we all knew, yeah, we're going back to California. So by 1983, when I started high school, my senior year, we're living in Garden Grove, California, which is right near Anaheim, right near Disneyland. I used to be able to stand on my roof and see the fireworks at Disneyland every night. So, so one of the things I mentioned is that I'm becoming more interested in this Branch Davidian doctrines, which are very, it's an enormous amount of literature, and you've seen, for those who watch my channel. So if you're really going to get in there and study it, it's a lot of material to go over. So by the time I was 18, I started going through all of the Davidian, that is, all the writings of Victor Houteff, which at this point, you know, in 83, there's already 50 plus years old. So, yeah, I'm doing that. My father, from what I can tell, at the age of 18, is losing interest in his faith. And, you know, and of course my father is he's not someone who's going to take correction. And I know this at 18. Now, I'll admit, I could be annoying. But again, if you really study the details of the Branch Davidian message, as well as Adventism, and he can be very exacting, very demanding. So yeah, I could be annoying. But, you know, in a way, I was a creation of my father. So, yeah, it's not all my fault. Take some blame, but, and when I say annoying, I mean a stickler. All of a sudden, hey, we got to be good Branch Davidians. Why are we doing this? Whatever. One time I complained when my mom was doing crossword puzzles because you're always supposed to be doing something constructive, right? You should be working or studying the Bible or something. So we're living in Garden Grove. I'm attending my senior year of high school there. And we got a letter, or at least a few letters in the mail from headquarters there, from Waco. Now they were from, really, ultimately, Vernon Howell. He's trying to get out into the field, at Mount Carmel in September. He already started his message. I'm not there. And we out, we're back out in the world, so to speak, right? So we don't know about it. George is living at Mount Carmel. He had been removed from the property through a those court orders, restraining order. But Lois Roden allowed him to move back sometime before Vernon started his message. And I remember Vernon one time said he thought that was a mistake. From his point of view, sure, that would be a mistake. I don't know why she did. But anyway, technically she did it wrong. She should have gone to the court and had the restraining order removed. She didn't do that. And that actually caused trouble for George later. So anyway, around the beginning of 1984, we're getting these letters in the mail. Now, I can see they're from the branch, and they're saying that there's some new... But see, my thinking is, well, before I can study that stuff, I've got to get all the Davidian stuff done. Then I've got to move over into the branch Davidian letters, because there's a whole pile of those. And then finally I'll get to that. I'm trying to catch up, because, there's so much to go through. Well, so I never did actually finish that project, because then Perry's calling us. And he's calling my father, which, of course, Perry's pretty much the last person my father wants to talk to. He's still pissed off with him for from my father's perspective, his bad attitude towards his activities, distributing literature, viewing Perry as someone who's just dismissive, which there's some truth in that. Perry could have a real attitude problem. For example, to show you what kind of person Perry was, first of all, he's the little lackey in the group that goes around, and I'm sorry if this offends you. I don't know how many you like Perry or even knew him, or you think that he was a great person based on what you've heard. Perry was horrible. This is my own personal observations of the man over several years and personal experience with him. He was a piece of shit, to be quite honest. And I can back that up with lots of data, but we're not going to go into that right now. But to tell just one story, Stan Sylvia, who was a pretty cool guy most of the time, everybody has their moments, but, he's an okay guy, had an antique shop down the street from the Herring House in around the 84, 85 era. And he did well. He was good at it. He could find antiques, fix them up, strip them down, make them look nice, resell them. That's what his trade. He was good at it. He had an antique shop. It's funny, he agonized over what to name his shop. I think in New Bedford he had a shop called Stan's Oak Tree Antiques, which is a nice name. He decided he wanted to show his newfound faith in his name of his business, so he had painted on the side of the building there, on the corner down the street, the branch Seventh Angel, Stan's Oak Tree Antiques. It was quite a mouthful. But yeah, credit to him. He wasn't afraid to, stand up for what he believed. Anyway, Stan liked jazz music, and he had the radio playing in his shop one day. When Perry's visiting, he immediately reaches over and shuts off the radio. Didn't ask any permission. Didn't say he was going to do it. Just shuts it off. This actually caused a big stink, because I would be offended. Stan was offended. And as so many times, because, see, to me psychologically, the way this works, because Perry is so useful to someone in authority, whether it be the Rodens or Victor Houteff, because he used to work for him too, or Vernon Howell, he's going to back him up, because he wants to use him to reinforce rules, to keep order. So even though I don't know deep down inside how Vernon thought about this, he might have maybe known it was kind of a shitty thing to do, but publicly he backed Perry. Yeah, Perry has the right to walk into your place of business and act like a little bitch and shut your radio off if he doesn't like your music. I would have walked right over and turned the radio back on, and I would have told him to get the fuck out of here. That's what I would have told him. But anyway, yeah. That's the way Perry was. That's just one example of many examples of just being a dick. I remember one time, I don't remember what it specifically was about, but he was being a real asshole, stickler to the rules, to Floyd Houtman. And Houtman turned around. I was watching this and confronted him right in the face and said, "Why are you like that? Why are you like that, Perry?" And he took him back, and Perry all of a sudden had a moment of self-realization, like, oh shit, yeah, I am kind of like that. But, whatever. He couldn't change. Couldn't change. He was the way he was. I'll tell you one more story. This is another good example of the way he was. So, Camp Palestine, 1987, there would be moments of quiet and relaxation time. I don't think Perry was around. Perry was around. I don't think David Koresh was around. And I know Clive, Bonnie, a few others were just sitting around doing that very human thing, talking, chatting, laughing, trading stories, the thing that humans do that makes us human, right? Normal human thing. Well, Perry was not like that. That's why he was really weird. I think there was like something mentally wrong with him. I'm serious. So he's walking around all agitated because you're not supposed to be doing that, right? You're supposed to be serious all the time and working or chopping wood or doing whatever the hell, right? You're not supposed to be sitting around doing this very human thing of give and take of conversation and just take it easy and have a laugh, right? The thing that we humans do that's normal and human. But no, in this bizarro world, you can't do that. You have to act like a freak all the time. So he stops and calls everybody out and says, don't you think you're getting a little bit hilaric? And, they can't say anything because, again, he's the enforcer. Oh, sorry. We could tell I was watching this. I could tell by the tone. Really, it was said in a way of like, just fuck off, but not in a way where Perry could really prove it or. So, yeah. That's the way he was. I could go on and on. Oh, my God. But anyway, so this Perry calls my father at Vernon's direction, I'm sure, and this is early 1984, and is telling my father, hey, there's a new message. Did you get those letters? David, have you seen them? Oh, here they are. My father's glancing through them. Oh, yeah, what is this about? Whose message is this? Oh, I'm not going to tell you, Perry says. Because, it's a secret, because it would prejudice. Because we knew it. We knew Vernon. We had met him, previously. He was the guy that stood up in a meeting one day and crying, and I'm not making fun of him. He was distraught. He was upset about his sins. Okay, was it an act? Was it real? I don't know, but I'm not calling him out for that. But it was weird. It was unusual for the group. And my father commented on the way home, that guy sounds like he's going to get his own message. And he didn't mean it in a good way, My father is a certain way. I'm not very sensitive to other people's spiritual troubles, okay, which I'm not saying that's a good thing. But yeah, but he was right. He called it. Now, was he right for the right reasons or the wrong reasons, who knows? But anyway. So yeah, that's why Perry wouldn't tell us. So we're like, okay, well, there's this mystery message. Well, anyway, Perry told us to read the letters and study and pray and all that. So in the meantime, George, of course, is at Mount Carmel and having to deal with this situation with Vernon. Of course, if you've watched my previous videos, there's a sexual relationship between Lois Roden and Vernon, which is a real actual thing, which really happened, which I find out in the future from this time, but people at Mount Carmel know. Some know. Yeah. And then, of course, Vernon's already married Rachel, and she's 14. So, this is very scandalous. Okay. So we get a letter from George and says, it's a letter by George, and George himself has mental health issues. So the letter basically was useful in that it let us know who this secret messenger was. But other than that, he said, for example, that it was his theory, that is George Roden, believed that the Seventh Adventist Church had sent Vernon as a secret agent to destroy the branch movement. Yeah. No. And even Vernon thought that was pretty funny. I thought it was funny. But anyway, so Perry calls back a week later. We know. And I'm totally against Vernon, because I know what he is. I should have held to that first impression. But the thing is, Perry had a secret weapon. And it was pretty much the truth. It wasn't the entire truth, but Lois Roden's listening. You have to listen. Oh, that hit me pretty hard. My father, not so much. No, fuck you. But I don't think he actually said that, but I mean, that's his attitude. And I'm like, I have to listen. Very shortly after this, we get a call from Perry. Yeah, we're in Southern California. Perry and Vernon in the stolen van, which I've told about, are in Southern California giving studies. Okay. Well, I have to go listen. I have to listen. I'm obligated. Right? That's one of the things Ellen White taught. If someone claims to have a message, you deserve to give them a hearing. You can't just say, Can't do like what they did later. In my opinion, many of the Branch Davidians of the future, when Mark Bro said he had a message, they just, gave him the middle finger and told him to go pound sand. Yeah, that's my opinion. Maybe some of other people who are watching you reform, maybe you don't agree, whatever, fine. I don't care. But that's the way I saw it at the time, that everybody was being hypocrites. But anyway, yeah. Because in some cases they would be told not to, I mean, if you've already got somebody who's the Lamb of God, you don't need to listen to anybody else, right? That's the idea. Anyway, so I listened. So that is, I arranged a meeting because my father didn't want Perry or Vernon at our house. So I got on my bicycle and I rode down to a local park and listened to Vernon talk a lot. Went on from the afternoon all the way into the evening. It was getting late. When I say late, I mean for me, I'm not a kid who stays out at night. 8 o'clock, I know that's probably sounds crazy, but yeah. It's dark. My parents don't know Vernon, but they know Perry, so I mean, they shouldn't have been too worried. They're kind of worried, and I don't blame them. They gave me some papaya pills, Perry and Vernon did, which, I mean, I doubt it's really any good for you, but at the time, health food, whatever. I brought them home. My mom's like, don't take those. Then my father said, because I was convinced, I'd listened to this study. Vernon gave his message, and I'll talk about, I'm just telling my story. I'm not going to go into what he talked about in the message. This is one of the times you've seen my past videos where he tells me, see that chart from years ago by Victor Hadif? Well, Victor Hadif had hired an artist to draw the charts, and the artist drew a little face on a beast, the seven-headed beast of Revelation. That's my girlfriend, Sandy. Yeah, right. Whatever. That was when that happened. So anyway, this is the way I am. I tend to make decisions. I used to be, maybe not so much now, but more then. I'm 18, very excited, very motivated. This is my new faith. Whoa! I'm like, praise the Lord. Got a new faith. This is the truth, and this is exactly what we need. And I go home, and I'm all on fire. We're going to, of course, my family is, and I'm doing the same thing my dad did 13 years previously. He has duplicated himself successfully, but he's not there. See, he's too late. He's already screw this stuff. He's not interested. Isn't that weird? All those years working hard and have his son in meetings and listen, David, it's very important, and and okay, finally I'm grown up. Okay, Dad, I'm ready. Never mind. That is hilarious. I find that funny now. But anyway, yeah. So we're not in sync. But my father did say something which was correct. He said, "Well, David, you can't make a decision that quickly." Yeah, he was right. But see, the problem is I didn't respect my father when it came to the religion. He had no credibility with me. He had been doing things on the Sabbath he shouldn't be doing. He'd been eating wrong foods. He had not been studying. He doesn't have it. I'm like, yeah, you're an apostate. So you're plus in this whole time, from the day he decided, hey, screw the branch and go back to California and forget Texas, and he never said one word about it, never explained any of his actions at all. So, what do you expect? I mean, I'm becoming an adult now. I'm making up my own minds about things. That's just normal, right? It happens. Your parents cease being these otherworldly, godly figures that know everything about everything, which is normal, and then you grow up, okay, well, your parents are just, that's from the Wonder Years. If you remember that show, there's the brother and the sister, right? The sister's older. She's basically, on the edge where she's becoming an adult. She's realizing that mom and dad aren't. She's rebelling. She's trying to explain to her little brother Arnold, the star of the show. She says, Mom and Dad aren't the sun and the moon. They're just people. And he's like, no, they're mom and dad. Because where he is, he's like 10. Yeah, he's right. When you're 10, mom and dad are like, whoa. That's mom and dad, okay? But yeah, by the time you're 18, well, yeah, you start to transition. So that's where I am. And, my dad doesn't know everything anymore, obviously. Okay, well, anyway, we end up going, we've been invited to go to Passover 1984. So my father, I mean, I continue to go to high school, every day. I'm listening. I've got one of the Walkman. I've got a Walkman. Remember those? Yeah. I have tapes that Vernon's sending me. I'm listening to his studies, walking back and forth to school. It's crazy times. And learning what he's teaching at the time, early days. I have on my alternate channel a study from March. That would be kind of what he was saying back then. And then I've already talked about what happened in Passover 84, so you can listen to that. I'm just talking my own personal experience. Like, I was very glad to be there and glad to be learning. That's when I had the experience, however, of sitting and listening to Lois Roden confess that she had an affair. That shook me a bit, but the thing is like everybody else was acting crazy too in a way. Like, Charlie Pace is, as far as I'm concerned, just a nut job. And even though Lois Roden is telling a story about how she was having a sexual affair with Vernon, on the other hand, she's not calling her own meeting and getting up in the pulpit and telling us straight about what we should do, or giving her advice, whatever that. She's not doing any of that kind of stuff for whatever reason. So she's not providing additional guidance, in my opinion, and so that was lacking there. Why she didn't, or I don't know. Maybe she felt that she wasn't right, or she shouldn't, or whatever. I don't know. But she never did call a meeting and give her own meeting and present her own ideas, at least not at this time. About a year later she was. But she never publicly called out Vernon in front of the group and told it straight and condemned him for what she believed what he was doing wrong or anything like that. If she had done that, maybe it would have had some kind of effect. Maybe things would be different. But she, for whatever reason, never did anything like that. So, anyway, because Vernon's kind of like I'll just sometimes call him a drama queen. He's always wants to be generating an event. Something's happening. So we had Passover. And, this is when, I think there's other stories. This is when, for example, Lois Roden janked the necklace off of Rachel's neck. That's the story. I told that in other presentations. But I had to go back to school. I'm trying to graduate high school. I did eventually graduate, and a few months later, my mother brought my diploma to me. Because I didn't actually go to the graduation ceremony, but that's okay. You still graduate, right? And Vernon made fun of me. Oh, David, you almost sold your soul to get this piece of paper. Well, actually, no. It turns out I didn't. Obviously, I've graduated, 40 years ago? Almost. And yeah, apparently I still have my soul, as far as I can tell. And everything's fine. And so, yeah, I think I did okay graduating. I think we can graduate high school. This idea that the end of the world's coming, just very soon. So don't just stop everything and, don't do this, don't do that. That's a common problem throughout history, right? It's very typical apocalyptic attitude. I completely and utterly reject it. Okay, that is a sure sign that someone is full of shit. Okay? Oh, stop everything, follow me, because, yeah. And just, oh my God. No. That's a sure sign they're full of shit. Obviously, we still have to pay the bills, feed our faces. Obviously. From when you're young, I was 18, yeah, you don't understand things like that so much, right? What the adults were thinking at the time, I'm not sure. I know my mom probably had mixed feelings, I guess. Of course, my mom already had a job and could work. I'm trying to get out of school, get an education. This became a big problem for me later because, the end of the world's not coming and I've got to make money. Vernon just has other goals. Okay, that's the thing. You might, because some people have asked me on my channel, why wouldn't he want you just go to make money and donate money? Yeah, that would seem logical, except that his other goal is to keep David down. because he wants to be thinking about David in terms of how subdued is David? How much under my thumb is David? How much is he doing what I want him to do? How much is he being diverted from his own will and into my will and my desire for him? That's what he's thinking. See? So his primary concern is to get David under control. Okay? So, yeah, logically, sure, David, go to school, go get a job, make some money, pay some tithes. No. Doesn't want me to finish high school because that's what he wants. He does, but I mean, it's not that he commanded me not to, but he didn't have any respect for it. But I did manage to go back to high school. But then, like I said, Vernon's always trying to generate drama. So, we've got to keep second Passover now. And he quoted the story in Hezekiah where they kept second Passover or something. That's because he's seeing himself as kind of a Hezekiah type figure. If you read about him in the Bible, he's a reformer, religious reformer. So that would make Lois Roden Ahaz. Yeah, which is not so good, right? Because Ahaz was the one who wouldn't ask for a sign, neither would they tempt the Lord. Yeah. Of course, I don't know how many of you realize this, but back several studies ago, I also said that Vernon said that she was the prophetess that he went unto and conceived. And she was supposed to bear a son in Isaiah 8. Well, as usual in the branch, when you're doing antitypes, you can play fast and loose with them. She's Ahaz. Oh, no, she's the prophetess, whatever you want, right? Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Okay. Anyway, I want to wrap this up. I'll keep this short, But I needed to get something out for you guys. So we went back for second Passover, and I had to again. And then he wanted to keep 2 weeks. This guy, 2 weeks of second Passover. You just see. Oh my God. So anyway, I'll close with this. So during this time, there was a gentleman who joined our group. His name was Doug Mitchell, who has passed away. Now, Doug Mitchell wrote a book that you can get on Amazon. The title he gave it was A History of the Warfare Between the Branch Davidians and whatever the hell. I don't remember the name. I have it in previous studies. I'll link it later or something. I don't know. I probably won't. But anyway, in that book he wrote, a very short book, he doesn't reveal that he actually had been a member, probably because he was embarrassed. And the reason why he was is because he was super, I saw it with my own eyes. He was so angry with Lois Roden, and rightfully so, because she admitted later that she had wronged him. So whatever happened between them, okay, and this is before Vernon got his message, or very shortly after, whatever, Lois Roden deeply wronged Doug Mitchell, and didn't apologize, and Doug Mitchell was extremely upset, and I think part out of spite, he joined Vernon. He let us use his shop. He was a carpenter, so he'd rented out a shop, and we'd have meetings there. And he even shaved his beard, which was a big deal for him because he liked beards. So he shaved his beard because Vernon would change his mind. Oh, we can have beards. We shouldn't have them. We should have them. Seemed random, whatever he felt like at the time. There's no rhyme or reason to it. At this time, no beards. Later on, beards. And then after that, well, only certain people get beards. Whatever the hell. It's crazy. So no beards. And so Doug shows up one day in a study. I remember that. He shaved his beard off, and Vernon was encouraged. But the problem with Vernon is that some people he just didn't know how to, I don't know, he just didn't seem that interested in treating them very well to keep them in the group for whatever reason. So Doug obviously has to do the thing that we have to do. You have to work, right? Because there's bills, you're renting a shop, that means you got to pay rent. That's money. That's the real world that cannot be avoided. If you don't, there are consequences, right? If you don't work, you can't make money, then you can't pay the rent, then you won't have a shop. We all know this. Okay, at 18, I don't know it, but Vernon's the one supposed to be smart. He's 25 or whatever the hell. Well, so we would have the morning and evening worship. You guys know that. 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. It's supposed to be 1 hour. Okay? Well, Vernon, he likes to talk. To expect Vernon to start a study at 9 and finish at 10, you are asking for a lot. Because that's not going to happen. Vernon likes to talk. And this is Vernon conveying this. I didn't see this myself, but Vernon is saying Doug is pressuring him. It's time for the emblems, because we were supposed to, at the end of the study, we had the bread and the... the Lord's Supper? The bread and the wine? Yeah, we did that every day. It was crazy. Yeah. There's no real formula. Well, you know what we used to do? Originally, we used to do the bread and the wine every Passover, once a year. But then when this new doctrine of the daily sacrifice came in the 70s, Lois Roden eventually had us doing it every day. And then at the end of the study, we were supposed to take the Lord's Supper, right? Because it was supposed to be like the morning and evening sacrifice in the temple, right? Anciently. So anyway, Vernon is conveying this earnestness on Doug Mitchell's part. Hey, we're supposed to do the emblems now at 10 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, right, in the afternoon. Because he's got to get to work, right? The work that Vernon doesn't have to worry about because everything's given to him. And, Vernon had worked hard for some periods of time in his life, but whatever lessons he learned about working hard and having to pay bills went right out of his head. Okay, because at this point, what the most important thing is for him to sit down and you to sit down and listen to him run his mouth. Yeah, that's the greatest thing in the world. So anyway, but somehow Doug did manage to get work done. Probably had to work late in the night or whatever, lose sleep, whatever you have to do, right? Vernon had zero sympathy because that's the way he could be. On some occasions, apologizing to people, even though we're trying to tell him, hey, this person is doing this and that, he thinks we're being mean. He apologizes to them. Sorry, David and Debbie's so mean. Okay, and I'm not going to name who that was. But then, poor Doug, he's got to work. No, screw Doug. I don't care if Doug doesn't have a shop or not. I need to run my mouth and talk for hours. It's the way he was. Everybody, like I said, we all have our own points of view, right? And one of the things that determine what kind of person you are, can you stop for just 5 goddamn seconds and put yourself in somebody else's shoes? That's a line from the beginning of Great Gatsby. That's advice that Nick's father gives him. You stop and try to walk around in somebody else's shoes for a while. Maybe try to figure out how they, maybe you'll have more sympathy. So anyway, yeah. So that's what happened. We did second Passover, and I had to arrange with my school and make up some bullshit about family problems. I'm not going to tell them, oh, I just joined a group, right? I wouldn't have called it, the C word. I need to go to Waco to practice my religion. I told them, but I took extra work and figured it out, and I graduated. It was fine. But I almost sold my soul. So that's where I'll leave off. I went back to Cal. We actually flew my dad's plane down there. Yeah, the last time I ever flew in his plane, actually, a long time ago. So I graduated from high school in June of 1984. And then right after this was the San Francisco trip, which I've told that story. So then next time I'll pick up when I moved to Waco and how I met my wife and then what I went through living in Waco those months, winter of 84, 85 and that. We'll cover that next time. So till next time, take care.